All right, Stud Muffins. Welcome back to the Stud Muffin Podcast. I'm your host, Dylan Stavia. I got a big guest today in Cooper Adams. Super pumped to kind of go through his journey and really talk about how crazy it was, to be completely honest with you. And I want to give him a little bit of an intro. Obviously, he went to UMBC from 19 through 21, and then he transferred to the Mount and pitched there from 22 to 23, which is pretty sick, being able to transfer from Division I to Division I, in-state too, being a guy from Maryland. I bet was a really cool experience. Then he pitches in Treads Pro Day, tops out at 96.8. Averages 95 miles an hour, and then signs a UDFA deal with the Red Sox and immediately goes to High A, pitches 79 innings there, and then goes to the Arizona Fall League, which to do that is a huge accomplishment, especially in your first year as a UDFA guys. Absolutely unreal. And then this previous year was in High A, then went to Double A. So, Coop, really appreciate you being on, man.
I'm happy to be on. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course, dude. So kind of take us a little bit through high school. I want to kind of start there because I think a lot of guys that watch the podcast. All right, we should be good. So take us through high school a little bit, because I think a lot of guys that watch this podcast are high school guys or even parents who kind of want to understand how the recruiting process works, because there are a lot of Northeast guys that actually watch this pod, and also just what they need to do in order to play Division I baseball, especially out of high school.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I was a really I was a skinny kid. In high school, and I had no idea what I was doing or anything like that. And it didn't take me until I think my junior year. We went to some camps, some different like tournaments and stuff that, for me at least, I went to St. John's College High School in DC, and they had we had a team that we specifically had to play on with them. And so we went to some camps and stuff like that through that team and started getting some interest because I pitched well at some of the tournaments, but nothing too concrete at that moment. And then my senior year, I just started going to camps. Just tried to, I went to like a Northeastern camp. I went to these other camps that were just like had a bunch of teams at them, tried to just get views and get seen by some people, and ended up being seen by, I think it was Ryder, UMBC, Towson, Delaware. I think there was one other one, but yeah, just ended up being seen by those guys. And UMBC kind of reached out and were like, "Hey, listen, we'd like to see you in a bullpen." And I went and I threw a bullpen in front of them, and then ended up getting an offer and signing with them.
Yeah, dude. I think it's awesome, just because of how everybody gets to the Division I level differently, and especially from what it sounds like. So you weren't even committed junior year; you committed senior year. Is that about right?
Yeah, I committed probably 2 or 3 weeks before school started. My senior year, it was just kind of that whole summer was trying to get
a solidified offer,
signed and get committed somewhere, and it was kind of going through different routes, going like, is the D1 route going to work? Am I going to have to go Division 2 or Division 3? Or like, I didn't even think about JUCO at that moment. And like, that's, I think, a big thing that, especially for the younger kids, like in high school, whatever it is, like if you haven't grown into yourself yet, like to really consider the JUCO route. Because even myself, like going to UMBC, I wouldn't trade it for the world because it made me the pitcher and person I am. And I got to meet some amazing people. But there are definitely some times I look back and go like, man, what if I went the JUCO route? Like, I wonder if things would have been different.
100%. Yeah, I think a lot of times, I mean, now I think in the space of today, it's pretty out there how beneficial junior college could be. I mean, you look at guys like Bryce Harper and some of the other big name MLB guys who went to a junior college and then got drafted high or transferred or whatever it is. So I think it's way more out there. But I think for us in our age bracket, it wasn't something that was so popularized. And also, I wanted to ask you this too. Being a guy who went to kind of a preparatory high school, was there any sort of pressure going to that school as far as like what college you went to and stuff? Because I know for me, going to the high school I went to, also a prep school, there was a ton of pressure about where you went to college. And when I said I was going to Queens College, it was almost kind of an embarrassment, to be completely honest. It wasn't exactly like, oh, dude, nice. It was like, why the fuck are you going there?
Yeah, I there was a little bit of that for sure, but I don't think it was too bad. I mean, especially with sports, like St. John's was such a big sports school that everyone was like, "Oh, you're going to play, baseball at a Division I school." Like that's so
Right.
cool.
Right.
Um, I think for a lot of people though, I think if I told people, "Hey, I'm going to Hartford Community College," or whatever JUCO, I think there definitely would have been a little bit more of a stigma about it, of
Hmm.
like, oh, he's going to a JUCO, like that's kind of weird. I definitely think in high school there was this big obsession of being, you're going to Division I school, you're playing Division I, baseball, football, basketball, whatever it is. So for me in that moment, I definitely tried to like fit into that norm, which probably wasn't always the best for what I actually like could pursue, but it just, was kind of how I was, the environment I was in high school.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's really good for people to hear, and just that, the outside pressure can be there, but you don't necessarily have to put it on yourself. And then
Exactly.
kind of talked a little bit, because there is definitely a kid who's watching this who's either a junior or a senior, and feels that pressure of, I'm not committed anywhere. How did you sort of deal with that, going into your senior year, and not having a school to go to yet, when probably a lot of your peers who aren't athletes are talking about applying to schools and taking the SATs, and you're just focused on, how am I going to get a college offer to play somewhere?
Yeah, I mean that part was definitely difficult because you're going to different camps, and obviously with the camps, like you got to perform to be able to, get some looks and all that. But I just kind of kept my mind focused on the goal of everything. Like my
Mm-hmm.
goal was to be a Division I baseball player. Like I wanted to make it. So I kind of kept myself really focused on that goal and said, all right, like I'm going to do everything I can to work towards that. So like I'm working towards it every day, and then I'm going to these camps, and I'm, going to these tournaments, and like there is the part of in those moments putting a lot of pressure on yourself and going like, I got to perform, I got to perform. I think for myself, I relaxed and was like, hey, listen, just go do what you're good at, and hustle, do the intangible things, and just be a good teammate. And it's like I believed in myself and my ability that I was a Division I baseball player, and like that could shine through. But I also focused on like, just being an overall good person, because you'd be surprised how many schools will see a kid and he has the ability to play at their school, but they see the other things, like the kid's not hustling, or he's, doesn't seem like he's a good teammate, or really just being a good guy in general, not getting along with guys. And they'll immediately go, well, he can play at our program, but he's doing all these different things. It doesn't show that he would be able to grow in our program and help our program. So they just cross him off the list. So I just really focused on that, and um, made some good strides within like the velo side of things as well. My like before my senior year, and yeah, just ended up getting what I got. So I was really happy about it.
Yeah, no, I think that's awesome. Speaking on the character side of things, I think kids are so, especially now, because again, when we were growing up, like velocity was out there, but it wasn't the same way it is now. Like you didn't have all of these monster social media platforms to really advertise things. It was like everyone was kind of building when we were in high school, if you really think about it. Now it's super popularized. So I think these kids stress themselves out so much to that it almost bleeds into, it definitely bleeds into their performance, but even how they treat other people. And they don't realize college coaches are watching, because it's a lot easier for a college coach to cross a guy off a list than scout every single person. It's much easier to just write guys off than it is to write guys in. So I think that's super beneficial for people to hear. When it comes to the velocity side of things, what was your velocity range when you did commit? Like, where were we at?
Um, well, I guess the to start that one, I was I think my junior year I was like 80, 84.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't really know what I was doing pitching wise. I ended up finding a guy in Virginia, Zach Dials, the bullpen. I ended up going to him. He made some like really quick tweaks with my mechanics, because like I had no idea what I was doing. I just threw the ball and had some arm talent. So he made some quick tweaks mechanically, and within the first week I hit 88, and then the next week I hit 90. So for me, going into my senior year, I was around like that 86 to 90 mark
Mm-hmm.
probably. And that I remember the UMBC coach was like, "Hey, you hit 90. We want to see you throw a bullpen, see if it's a true 90.
Hmm.
And I went into the bullpen that I threw in front of him, and I was like, I sat 88, 89, like got close to hitting a 90 again, and he was automatically like, oh yeah, okay. So
Yeah.
like he has it in the tank. So yeah, just ended up making some minor tweaks, and 88 to 90, at least, in that time, was able to get me a Division One, scholarship and offer. I obviously am a little out of touch with how it is now, but I
Hmm.
know, a lot of different guys are looking for people's velos to be higher or whatever it is. But, I always kind of press upon kids too. There's a lot more to pitching than velo. And, I think you go show that you're 88 to 90, you command the strike zone. You're not, you're throwing strikes. You have some good off speed offerings. Like, teams are going to look at that and be like, oh, okay, this is definitely a guy that we want in our program.
100%. I think as I said earlier, like in today's social media, I think everybody sees these guys who are throwing like 95 plus in high school, and there's a lot of them now. And maybe there was when we were growing up and they just weren't advertised as much because there just wasn't a platform for it. But I think there's so many conferences in Division One baseball that if you really do want to play Division One and that's your goal, like you don't have to throw this absurd velocity.
Mm-mm.
Um, even if you talk about like the MAC and the NEC and some other conferences that might to the outside world be considered not the best baseball, but there are some teams in there that really can do some damage, that have done damage in regionals and things of that nature. So I think that's super important for people to hear that it's not 95 or die when it comes to trying
Yeah.
to get a Division One off, because I think that's what the perception is, especially for a younger athlete who sees these kids committed to the SEC, and I think with the SEC in general, probably more towards the 95 side. But so you take the offer from UMBC, you end up there freshman year, and then your freshman year, you end up pitching 48 innings right out of the gate, which I think is super rare for a freshman, especially at the Division One level. So kind of walk us through that year and how that came to be.
Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting kind of year. I mean, this is something that talked about before. Like, my UMBC time was interesting
Mm-hmm.
because when I came in, I said I was 88, 89, like touched some 90s, and I was feeling really good going into the winter. I had no idea what I was doing,
Mm-hmm.
in the sense of just like getting myself prepared for the season, and ended up dropping my slot a little bit. Like, and then during the season, because I got tired, it dropped like crazy. But it was this like weird, funky delivery. And I was at the beginning of the year, I was coming out of the pen. They were like, "Hey, we're gonna have you be like middle relief setup guy." And I came into those roles and I started doing really well. And they were like, listen, we don't have it. At that point, there were, a lot of guys were up and down with, their consistency on the mound. And we had some injuries. And then our like Friday, Saturday, Sunday guys are just like all over the place. So I kind of got mixed into the um like Sunday role in a couple weekends, and like I had some really good outings.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I think as a lot of freshmen happen, and for me, I ended up really struggling because at the end of the year I dropped my slot like crazy. Like, my velo was anywhere from 79 to 84, like, because my eye like completely dropped slot, like I was throwing from here, you
Right.
know so it's this situation where I'm like, okay, I'm basically throwing sidearm but like from up top. And you end up getting hit around a little bit, but it was the Saturday guy from when we started conferences to the end of the year, and just got like really really valuable experience, you know just facing Division 1 hitters, and obviously not having a lot of success. But it kind of helped my mind going into next year. It's like, okay, I was throwing really weird, different than I ever have in my past, and I still had some success. So it's like, all right, let's get back to where I was before. Improve myself a little bit and come back sophomore year ready to go. And yeah, it ended up leading to a sophomore year where I got moved to the pen fully, and I was a closer instead of a starter. But obviously, COVID happened. So
Yeah.
just part of it.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on that in a minute, but in that sort of that freshman, I think a lot of athletes think as well that they get to this 90 miles per hour and it's just going to be like that forever too. That
Yep.
it's like I got to 90 and it's like if I throw anything below that, like something's horrifically wrong, which is just not the truth. What sort of led to that arm slot drop? Was that something you did from just like the pressure of just being a freshman trying to play at the Division One level? Like what led to that?
I think there was some coaching things that happened with it. But I also just think I had no idea what I was doing. So I just kind of was blindly following a bunch of things and also just was like, all right, well, maybe this does help, or maybe this does this, or maybe this does this. And that was also the thing, I think, in my time at UMBC was there, we didn't have a lot, we weren't doing a lot of velo training,
Mm-hmm.
but also there weren't any radar guns. Like we barely had radar guns during our like spring scrimmages.
Right.
Like sometimes our coaches didn't want us to see what we were throwing or whatever it was. So it became this thing of, I had no idea, especially as the year was going on, that there was any significant drop or any significant like, decline within my pitching. Um, just mainly because they didn't show us any velo
Did you feel it
until
at
I
all?
got some of the velo back from other schools, and they were like, "Yeah, you're throwing like 82." Now, I'm like, whoa, what? How am I throwing 82 right now? That makes no sense.
Yeah.
Um, so I had to really look at that and go, okay, I have to understand my body a little bit more because I think there was a little bit of, okay, I'm a freshman, I'm getting tired, it's a long season. But on the other side of things, I just kind of blindly followed a lot of stuff
Mm-hmm.
and that I probably shouldn't have followed, and it kind of led me to where I was. And that's kind of the thing I also put out to people is listen, coaches have good knowledge, right? Um, but there's also the part that you know yourself more than
Anybody
anyone
else?
else knows you. So being able to understand and figure out what works for you specifically is very important. And being able to like listen, take what a coach says. And I'm a big proponent of like never look at a coach and be like, no, you're wrong. Like you don't know what you're talking about, whatever it is. Like coaches know what they're talking about, but sometimes the way they apply things aren't the best for you. So it's being able to take what they've taught you or what they're trying to teach you and go, okay, well, they're trying to teach me in a way that doesn't work for me. So let's find out of the stuff that they're trying to teach me how that can work for me.
Mm-hmm. 100%. And I think, I'm a big fan of Alex Hormozy, and one of his things is there's two skills. You can be really good at the thing, so being really good at baseball, and then teaching the thing is another skill. Sometimes guys are really good at the thing and not the best at teaching the thing, which isn't a bad thing. It's just those are two separate skills. There are guys who have barely played past high school baseball who are really good at teaching the thing, really good at teaching baseball. So I think that's super important for athletes to understand. Did you ever feel in that time frame when you did have that velo drop and you found out, did you have like a holy shit, what the hell's going on sort of like panic at all? Or were you just kind of like, let me just finish this year and figure it out at the end?
I think there was definitely a moment. I remember we were playing Albany and like finish the start, whatever it is. And this was like one of the first times that we realized the team had a gun on us.
Mm.
So we were like, I was like, dude, like, what was I throwing? What was I throwing? And he goes, you probably don't want to know, Coop. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, is it really that bad? And he was like, yeah, it was pretty bad. And I was like, well, can you at least tell me the range? Like, I gotta know.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, you were anywhere from around 79 to 84. And I had that oh shit moment of I need to figure this out. Why am I throwing 84?
Mm-hmm.
But I also realized at that time, I mean, it was like kind of hitting the end of the season, and I was just like, well, we got like 3 more weeks left. I don't think I'm going to be able to figure this out in 3 weeks because I just don't know what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely tried to figure some things out. It just I ended up leading to a part where I was like, all right, I'm just going to um, figure it out in the off season.
Yeah. 100%. I think too. You touched on something earlier too. When you were in high school, you worked with a guy, and it really helped. It got you to that 90-mile-per-hour range. Did you wish, sort of during that time frame in your freshman year, that you were kind of still working with him, or at least in communication during your season? Because I think a lot of athletes, if you look at some of the bigger facilities, and even what I do, a lot of guys work with their coach in the offseason, put in all this work, and then in season, all of a sudden it falls apart, and they're just kind of like confused on what's going on. And I think a lot of times it's that communication just dies, and they think they just can take whatever it is and just apply it into season. Did you feel that way at all, where you were kind of wishing that you had, I guess, somebody in your corner in a sense?
100%. I mean, it's actually something I still talk to my coach at Tread about often,
Right.
because I remember talking to him my first professional season, and we were talking about some guys that, like, they'd done Tread, they ended up stopping doing Tread. He was like, listen, like, there's a lot of guys that they get in the season and they go, well, I'm in season, I don't need my coach anymore. Like, I
Right.
have my
Coordinator or
coaches here or
pitching coach.
whoever it is. And he was like, listen, that's a lot of times the guys that do that, they end up not having as much success, because the thing about, at least in my personal view, having someone from the outside, like an outside of your university, outside of your high school, and for me, like outside of my professional organization, right, is a lot of times, especially in the pro side of things, the coaches and everything, they want to help you, they want to help you grow, but they're also stuck with a lot of the organizational views, and like have to follow what the organization wants,
Right.
which is nothing wrong with that. That's how they should be in
Hmm.
their sense. And there's obviously a lot of great coaches that really, like, I had a ton of coaches that really helped me out through my season. But I also know too, having the coach on the outside who isn't having to be stuck by anything other than just trying to help you, puts you in a place where it's like, all right, well, especially in an organization, all the coaches, they're, in high A, we got 15, 16 pitchers. Like, they're also focused on 15, 16 pitchers.
Right.
And then if you're looking at the, like, higher ups, they're focused on the, like, everybody in the organization, like the pitching coordinators, all that type of stuff. They're focused on, like, figuring out everybody in the organization's things and trying to get them better. So these small little problems that can actually make or break your season, or help you from having success or having failure, you know, if you don't have somebody to kind of be in your ear and going, hey, like, you're not doing this right, and we need to focus on this or work on this, sometimes can be detrimental. And that's, for me, like, I think we get into this a little bit later as well, but half the reason I think I had a great season this last season was, at the beginning of the year, I kind of was all over the place, because I have new pitches, all this type of stuff, and I didn't know how to use them properly.
Hmm.
And I had my tread coach on the side going, hey, out of this entire outing, he would send me video and go, you didn't use this right, you didn't do this right, you didn't do this right, you didn't do this right. We need to just switch up how we're doing things and all that type of stuff. But I wasn't hearing that from anyone in the Red Sox. I'm hearing that from him. And it allowed me to go into my next couple outings, and throughout the year, and really understand and learn how to best use my arsenal, and then also show and look at a hitter and go, okay, if he's swinging like this, or if he's doing this, this is the pitch I'm going to, or this is what I need to go to. So having that coach that's in your corner during a season can really, really, really help your season.
100%. Yeah, I think that's super impactful, even when it comes to college, right? Like, I think a lot of athletes go to a Division I school and think that the development is going to be something that they've never experienced before. And in certain cases, there are definitely some things that you take away from your colleges, no matter where you go, that something you might be out of the box. But also, a college's job by nature is for them to win games. So if you're not helping them win, they don't necessarily, not that they don't care about you anymore. I think all college coaches care about their players, but it really comes down to, when I was playing for Central Connecticut or Oregon, it was how we're going to beat these teams, not how are we going to, especially when I was a GA at Oregon, it wasn't necessarily like, it's how we're going to beat UCLA, not how one of my current athletes, like how are we going to get Ian Umlaut drafted? Like, it'd be great if
Yeah.
he gets drafted, but at the end of the day, we need to win games, which I think is something that athletes don't necessarily expect. They expect more of a, how am I going to get Cooper Adams to the next level, which just kind of falls a back seat. They want it to happen, but it's not at the forefront of their brain. With your coach at Shred, it's all he really thinks about. Right now, it's how are we going to get Cooper to the big leagues, right? Had a really good year last year in Double A. How are we going to get him to Triple A? And then how are we going to get him to the big leagues? That's all your coach at Tread thinks about. So I think that's super important. So at the end of our freshman year, we kind of obviously have a huge velo drop. What did that offseason look like for you? And was there a big turnaround or change in that time frame?
Yeah, I mean, I ended up going back to the facility I was at in the bullpen, and I got things figured out. Worked with Zach Dials and got things figured out. Got myself back up to the 88, 90 range, and just kind of hit the gym. I ended up also working with a guy he's my best friend's godfather. His name's Larry Bogart. He's owner of Combat Lab Performance. So he does some like performance training that a lot of people from the like bird's eye view, if you were looking on social media or whatever it is, you'd be sitting there going, this is some really weird training. But it was a lot of isometrics, a lot of plyometrics, like a lot of different things that trained like a bunch of stability within my and also just core strength and just all the stuff that's away from what people think lifting is. Like it's like, oh, like put a bunch of weight on the bar, bench press 1,000 pounds and squat 1,000 pounds. It was like, no, we're doing, you know, we had bands like these little like bands that you just put around your arms. We put around them our legs, and we're doing these things called little feet. Where we're just like moving our feet as fast as we can, and we're going up a hill. And you're sitting there going, you would think on the outside you're looking at it going,
This is crazy.
this really wouldn't do much. It burned like that. Really, really built my hips, and we did a bunch of stuff for shoulder and core and stuff that really helped me stabilize a lot of these areas that I was kind of weak in and build some strength in those areas. And then I also ended up I think I gained 20 or 30 pounds in the off season. I think I went from like 160 to being like 185. So ended up making a big jump in my weight.
Yeah.
And I came back and I was like, hey, I'm, feel good. And I was that fall, I was 88 to 90. And we had our big closer. His name is Steven Schock. He ended up going to UVA.
Yep.
So I kind of like slid into his role because they were like, hey, we need somebody we can trust at the back end of the bullpen. You were somebody we can trust. So we're going to do that. And, but I will say still, like I said, I had no idea what I was doing mechanically. No idea what I was doing in the sense of like arm care, prep routines, anything to get myself ready to go throw. And, I end up having some shoulder issues in the fall, and then coming back to the spring, I end up having some shoulder issues again, and just light stuff. Nothing crazy, but like it would keep me from going out there and throwing. So I end up coming back. We go to I think University of Charlotte, and played them to start the year, pitched there, and just kind of like did okay, and just kept kind of building myself back up into being a closer, and started really getting into that groove. I ended up getting a save against Stetson University, which was like a really, really, really big one for me. And then 2 weeks later, we're playing Coppin State, get a save against Coppin State. I'm like, hey, we're rolling.
In.
We're about to go into conferences, and unfortunately, COVID happens and derails the season.
Yeah, I think that happened to a ton of athletes. Like for me in particular, too. That year, I'm at Central Connecticut. I've thrown 6 innings. I haven't given up a run yet. And I'm just like, oh my God, we're gonna take off, and then just gone in an instant.
Gone.
Which is just, I think it taught a lot of people during that time frame of how finite the game is without having to have it be catastrophic injury. So where a lot of athletes were like, wow, it really can just be like taken away from you in an instant without having to have, surgery or anything. So obviously we had a building up really well for that year, and then COVID happens. Take us into junior year, because that year seems to be very pivotal in your career.
Yeah, COVID obviously happens. I go back, I start, training when we're able to train. Obviously, it was kind of all over the place with a lot of the restrictions and all that. So, but I ended up coming back to fall, and it was probably one of the best falls I've had. And I always laughed about it within my college career that I was a fall American, because
That's
I would come
awesome.
back and it would be, I had the whole summer to work, and I had the whole summer to like understand what to do, and I had a whole summer to work with Zach at the bullpen and
Hmm.
work with Larry, and I was like, oh man, like I'm about to go crush this season. And I go back in the fall, and like I went back that fall and I was 90, 92.
Mm.
And I was like, I'm like cruising. I'm like, oh man, like I could really go out this year and be 90, 92, go dominate and, get myself some looks. And
Yeah.
obviously, moving into your junior year,
True
you're
draft
sitting there
year.
going, yeah, I'm starting to think
Yeah. Yeah.
obviously my goal is to get drafted to move and play at the next level. So I it looks good. It looks like it's gonna happen. And I think it was my last outing of the fall. I ended up tweaking something in my shoulder, and I was sidelined, and then kind of sidelined throughout most of the winter, and then started trying to like work my way back in the spring. Like I'm throwing, I'm doing stuff like that, but wasn't really fully healthy. So then uh ended up like I was a captain my sophomore year and my junior year at UMBC. And it just was like, okay, like the team really likes me. Like I'm someone the coaches view as someone reliable and a leader and all that. So I end up taking just kind of a really big hit in my pride, because for me, and I had to learn this through this experience, but I was a really like when I'm playing, when I'm out there doing well, everything, and it's a lot of people when you're doing well, like you're on cloud nine. Like you can talk to everybody, you're walking around like your shit don't stink. It's like,
Hmm.
man, everything's great. Like I'll help people, I'll do this, I'm there for guys, and I feel like I have all the knowledge in the world to help people get through their stuff. Like yeah, man, I'm a great leader, all that type of stuff. As soon as stuff got taken away, and I got tested, and the coaches were like, listen, we're not going to take you to these, like, we're not going to take you to Maine because we're not sure you're ready yet. Or we're going to have you sit in the bleachers during the games to chart. Um, and that's kind of how my year started was, hey, we're going to have you chart in the bleachers. It's freezing cold, you're charting.
Hmm.
We're going on these away games. And for me, my first 2 years, I'm going to all the away games.
Right.
And
It's all you
they're
know.
like, hey, listen, you're not going. Um, and it took it took me going, okay, well, I want to get back. I need to get back. And I realized I kind of rushed myself back.
Hmm.
But then also on the other side of things, because of everything that was going on, I started to resent some of the stuff that the coaches were doing or whatever it is, really not even to their fault. It was
Hmm.
just kind of one of those where I want to be on the mound, I want to be playing, and it feels like they're stopping me from doing that.
Right.
Um, and I feel like I'm not leading as well as I can be. And then just certain things start happening, and I end up rushing myself back. They're like, "Hey, we're really excited to get you back." And then I could tell immediately I was not ready to be back. Like velo was still down. End up coming back first outing, just walking a bunch of guys, giving up some, shots, and really realized at that moment that me and my coach at UMBC just didn't see eye to eye, and we were just, I just was in a weird place mentally because I'm like, man, I'm not performing well. The school that I had enjoyed for the past 2 years is becoming miserable to me.
Hmm.
And like the only way I'm getting through right now is because like I have great teammates
Right.
and great guys on the team. Um, so I end up, I think I ended that year with 5 years, and I had like a 15 earned run average, like it was something like that. And I I remember after that season, because there were a couple moments where I got done with games, and I was close to home,
Hmm.
and I just kind of called my parents and said I'm coming home because I like mentally couldn't be there any longer. And it took me kind of this part of going, okay, like if I want to reach my goal of becoming a Major League Baseball player, uh, if I stay here, right, I'm not going to make that goal happen. And I'm going to have to bet on myself and understand that, like, yeah, I don't have the best numbers in college, but I'm going to have to bet on myself that I can, get the velo up, send some videos out, and I can go to a school, another Division I school, and be able to play and give me a chance to go play professional baseball.
Yeah, I think that's super important for athletes to hear, and I want to touch on a bunch of things in that. Of it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Especially through college baseball. And being a guy that went to a school in state, I bet at times, and I don't want to speak for you, but you almost felt like really far away from home in a sense, even though you weren't, right? You could drive there pretty easily, but with the situation you were dealing with mentally, it probably felt at times like everything just felt so distant, and baseball didn't feel the same anymore, and it just felt like an odd place to be. How did you kind of pull yourself out of that situation, outside of, obviously we'll get into the transfer part in a minute, but just mentally? Because I think a lot of athletes are in that spot now to where, for you that year, you have this amazing fall. You're 1992. You probably feel like you're on top of the world. And then spring comes and you feel smaller than you ever have. How did you kind of pull yourself out of that?
Yeah, I think, I had a lot of guys on the team that trusted and are still good friends to this day. That I kind of leaned on them,
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of had their support. But also, I'm grateful. Like, I have a great support system, and that was something I really leaned on in those moments. And I think I would talk to anybody who's going through a similar situation. Go, hey, listen, like, really lean on your support system. Lean on the people that love you. Lean on the people that care for you, because they're the ones that want the best for you. And that's what helped me, was going, okay, uh I'm struggling with everything. I feel like I'm far away from everybody. E- e- Everything's not going the way I want it to. All this stuff, and I'm getting in my head, and like going, kind of sinking deeper and deeper. And I was like, yeah, I have my mom and my dad going, hey, listen, like, we're here for you for whatever you need, like. And they were kind of the ones that pushed me to go, hey, if you're not happy here, if the things aren't going the way that you want them to go, leave.
Mm-hmm.
Like, bet on yourself and leave. And I know there are, like, some parents and a lot of people out there that'll be like, no, you got to stick through it and, like, power through and do all that. But I think, by the grace of God, like, obviously I have such amazing parents that they were just going, hey, listen, you know, you don't have to stay. Like, this is not, you don't have to be there all the time. And I think that's kind of the knowledge that got me through, was you always have a choice. You always have a choice. You always have an option in the matter. And that, for me, always helped, going, okay, I got a choice. I can leave. I don't have to be here.
Right.
I don't have to be here. Like, I'm I'm a good enough player to go to another school and be able to play and do well. Uh and that I just feel like I'm not getting valued here. Okay, I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna bet on myself, put the work in, and do it.
Right.
And that's also the other part of it, is like, you know, you're gonna make if you make that call, right? You go, hey, I'm gonna leave, right? I'm gonna go to another school and I'm gonna do this. It's like, well, you better be prepared to put the work in and do that. Uh, because that's what gives power to those choices, as well as that knowledge. Like, for me, I had that knowledge of, okay, I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure I go to another school, another Division I school. And I think that power, that ability of knowledge, kind of gave me the power to go, okay, I'm good. Like, I'm just going to get through this season, and I'm going to leave, and I'm going to go do what's right for me.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of things in there that are super impactful and important. And I think number one is, I think a lot of athletes have this nobody's coming to save you sort of mentality, and it's 100% the truth. Nobody was going to put Cooper Adams' name in the transfer portal besides Cooper. But having your parents to support you is really beneficial, and leaning on your support system, because nobody does anything alone. Obviously, nobody puts the work in or does it for you, but having this mentality of, like, separate when things get hard. And I think as human beings, sometimes our first reaction is to isolate, all it does is make it worse instead of leaning on other people for help. Because at the end of the day, that's what a lot of us need. And to put in perspective too of entering the transfer portal, you did the best with the information you had, right? You knew that you were going to bet on yourself and you were going to work hard, but you had no clue whether you were going to get a Division I offer or even any college offer, which I think, for me in particular too, when I entered the transfer portal, I had one Division I offer throughout my entire playing career, and it was to Central Connecticut. And then I decided to transfer, and it's like, I could never play college baseball again. Like, that's a reality in this, and I need to know that, right? So I think for you, speak on, I guess, your mentality of, when you did hit that, not like a real button, but theoretical button of the transfer portal, what did you feel, and kind of how did you come to the decision where, like, listen, man, I'm burning the boats. There's no going back.
Yeah, I hear stories about it now with a lot of guys that, they leave a school, they enter a transfer portal, and like the day of, they're getting calls from schools being like, hey, we want you to come, whatever it was. I remember having a conversation with my parents, and my parents said, hey, listen, we support you no matter what. It's your decision. Like, it's your decision no matter what you decide to do. And I said, I'm going to do it. I need to get out of here. I'm going to go work my butt off, and I'm going to get another Division I school. And I will say, in my baseball career, that was some of the most stressful but fun times I've had.
Perfect description.
Kind of similar to like where it was out of college, right after, like, before getting signed, because it was all unknown, and the only thing I could handle was, I'm gonna go in every day, I'm gonna work out, put the work in, I'm gonna focus on baseball and get my mechanics right, and putting myself in the best situation to throw hard and throw well and be healthy and all that. So I end up working at the bullpen, the facility I was going to. And in my off times when I wasn't working there, I was making video emails where I would send an email to a school. I came up with a list of schools I wanted to go to. And I sent every single one of them a video. And it was like a video of my bullpens that I've been throwing, like the ones I'll be throwing, 88, 89, or like a couple of the good ones I end up being like 92. And I'm like sending it out to everybody. And I'm putting like a video message in there to kind of just be different from every other recruiting email you see. Because a lot of recruiting emails, it's just like, hey, this is me, these are my numbers, and blah, 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 like, take a chance on me. I kind of went through the perspective of like, what can I add to a program? Like, what can I do to help your program? And, I end up just sending up a ton of emails, and I got a lot of responses back, but a lot of the responses were, hey, we really appreciate the email. We really like what you're doing. But unfortunately, like, our roster's full right now. And
how long was that? And I don't mean to cut you off. How long was that email process to where you were getting those emails? So you enter the portal, right? You burn the boats. You can't go back to UMBC. That's done. How long was that process of sending emails where nobody said that they want you yet?
There were a couple like emails right back, like really quick, that were either saying like, no, hey, sorry, we can, or like, I think I had one from Towson that was like, hey, we're really, really interested. Like, we'd love to see you. And then something fell through, and I didn't end up hearing from them.
Right.
And then a lot of ones were like, it'd be like 2-3 weeks before I heard anything. And then, I'd hear something, and I'd be like, oh, I got an email from the school. Hey, sorry, like, we like what you're doing, our team's full. And it's tough. Like, it's a tough part, because at that point I was like, all right, well, all the schools that I had on this list, like Division I wise, that I wanted to go to, are reaching out to me being like, hey, we're not interested. And that hits your core a little bit, because you're like, man, like, okay, now I got to start looking at things that I feel like I'm better than. Like, I'm sitting there going, oh, I'm better than D2 or better than D3. And I was like, well, not really. But like, I had this view of myself, like, I wanted to be a Division I baseball player, and I wanted to be that completely. And I kept sending videos out, and I ended up having a moment where my coach goes, "Hey, listen, the University of Maryland's coming in to watch you." Because I sent some video out. They were interested. End up throwing in front of them, Anthony Papio. I think he's now the coach at Alabama.
Hmm.
One of the assistants at Alabama. He very like really really nice guy.
Yeah, I spoke with him in the portal
He was
too.
like,
Really cool dude.
"Man, we really like you. Like, we would love for you to come to Maryland." And Maryland was my dream school.
Right,
Like, that was my
UMD's.
dream school
Yeah,
growing
yeah,
up.
yeah.
So, um, I was sitting there going, "Oh man, I'm gonna go to Maryland. Like, this is gonna be sick. This is gonna be sick." And it ends up falling through. Like, I get a call. I'm having a call with them, and they're like, "Hey, listen, you can't go in. We can't get you into the school because all your credits from UMBC aren't going to transfer over."
The same thing. That's
Um,
funny. Sorry to cut you off again. That same thing happened to me. So I was going to go to the University of Maryland in the transfer portal, and the same thing happened. It's where it
yep.
was like, we're going to take like a month maybe to figure out whether you can get in. And I just didn't have that kind of time because as you know, like, we don't have a place to play right now.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's where are we going to go? So Maryland falls through. Kind of what happens next?
Yeah, and then I end up getting a call from one of my buddies, and he's like, "Hey, what do you think about Mount St. Mary's?" And at the time, Mount St. Mary's was just like, "I'm not going
Yeah.
there." Been a rough program. They weren't like winning games at all. I had friends that went there and they were miserable,
Hmm.
and we played against them too, and we just whooped them. And I was like, "Man, I kind of want to go to a place and like see if we can win."
Hmm.
Because we never really went or like won at all at UMBC. Um, but then I ended up getting a call from my high school, one of my high school coaches, and he goes, "Hey, listen, Mount St. Mary's got a brand new coaching staff. I really trust this coaching staff, and they've seen a bunch of video and whatever it is, and they really really like you. Give them a chance." And I said, "Fine, I'll give him a chance. I'll give him a call because I got nothing else. I have
Right.
nothing else right now. Maryland fell through. Like, I have nothing else." So I ended up giving Coach Aaron Tarr a call. He was our hitting coach, and he's the best. I love him. And he just was like, "Listen, like, we want to win." And we believe that you're going to be a big part of that, and we believe that you can come in and help us immediately, you know, transform this program around. Um, and then I end up going for a visit, and like Coach Leone, Coach Moore were there. Coach Leone head coach, Coach Moore was the pitching coach when I was there. And kind of a funny story on it, but my dad's driving me up because he's come with me to the visit, and it's in Frederick, Maryland,
Right.
or Emmitsburg, Maryland, but like past Frederick, Maryland, and I always said to myself, I was like, I just don't want to go here. And I'm a guy that like I like being close to a city or like in the suburbs.
Hmm.
Like, I don't like being in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
Um and we're going to the middle of nowhere. And I'm the entire way I'm going, I'm like, "Man, I don't want to go here, man. This sucks. Like, why could I get anything better? Like, this is terrible. Like, oh man, I'm gonna hate this school." I'm making all these assumptions in my mind. Like, I'm gonna hate this school already. I've never been there. Well, I've been there when I was a kid, but you know, didn't really get to explore it at all.
Right.
And I get there, talk to the coaches, walk around the campus. I'm like, "This campus is actually a lot nicer than I thought it would be." And these coaches are amazing. Like, I really, really fell in love with their vision and what they wanted for the program and what they wanted for me too. Like, they were like, "Listen, Coop, like, our goal is to win." And they were upfront with it. Like, our goal is to win. And that's how a lot of coaches are. Like, they have to win to
Hmm.
keep their job.
Right.
But I said, "Listen, our goal is to win. We want you to be a big part of that. We also want to develop you into a player that moves on and plays at the next level." Like, and they gave me the opportunity. They were like, "Listen, when I got there, they tried to get me into the Cape, ended up trying to get me into the NECBL, like, get me into a bunch of like good summer ball opportunities."
Hmm.
But yeah, it kind of fell into my lap, and I was like, "Wow, it was like by God's grace going like, hey, you're meant to go here. Like,
Right.
you're meant to go to this school. You're meant to be in this place." And ended up getting an offer from them, and committing basically like a week after that visit. And kind of took a lot of the stress off that I was putting on myself of being like, am I going to play baseball ever again?
Yeah. Yeah, which is probably so I guess how long in that process you enter the portal to committing, how long was that?
And the entire summer, like I
Wow.
committed
That's crazy.
uh 2 weeks into August.
Yeah, so pretty much over 2 months in a sense of not knowing where you're going to go, and being able to deal with that mentally is really tough, but
Yeah, it was tough. It
yeah,
was like, because especially when you get close to August like that, it's,
finding where you're going to
what am I gonna
live, what
do?
are your
What am I gonna do?
classes? Yeah. No, that's tough, and that's, I think, anybody who's watching this just realize how mentally strong you are and how many things happen throughout this part of the journey that folds a lot of people, or a lot of people would go a different direction instead of just keep betting on, like you've just kept betting on yourself throughout this story, and we're going to get even to more of what that entailed. But obviously, commit there. It's a great feeling. You finally have a place to play. What did your 2 years at Mount look like? Because, you threw 147 innings, which is a ton in 2 years.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of an interesting thing because I came in. This was like the first time that I kind of like kept everything that I was doing, um, and I was throwing hard. Felt like I was in a great environment. Ended up meeting a lot of my like really really good friends and best friends to this day there. Just felt really comfortable. And going into my first year, they I was one of the weekend guys, but we had this kind of thing where um, I they didn't they made we had this rotation, and their thought process, which me and Coach Leone kind of laughed about, but like his thought process was, we're gonna try and save our best pitcher for Sunday,
Okay.
because
S-
basically,
Sweep or take the series, basically.
yeah, like they knew at that time that our we were hoping our staff would look really good, um, but we just kept taking hits, and they were going, okay. And I ended up being a guy that, like, I was very up and down
Mm-hmm.
consistency wise, but you know I was probably, in the sense of the team, one of the more consistent pitchers, just because I've been there before. But like, I just think for myself, like, velo wise was still a little inconsistent. Like, I had no idea what my stuff was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I had this little gyro slider that I thought was a lot bigger than what it was, and I had this changeup that I thought had a lot more depth than what it was. Like, it was like a 7 and 12 changeup. I thought it was the best thing in the world. um, it wasn't, but you know I'd have unbelievable outings, and then I'd have some shaky ones. And I remember, actually, we played UMBC, and I go back to UMBC, and I'm like, man, I'm gonna crush them. Like, I'm gonna show them whatever it is. And I get through the first 2 innings, I'm killing them. I'm doing great. I'm like, this is gonna be great. And then you know we have a couple mistakes fielding wise, and then everything starts to crumble. I get taken out in the third inning, and I was like, man, like, this is crazy. This is tough. And I had more starts like that as the year went on, but I also had starts like right after UMBC. We played Georgetown, and I went 9 innings, 1 run ball with like 7 punchies.
Hmm.
And I was like, man, like, I showed glimpses, and I kind of gave our team the best chance to win when I was on the mound. So our coach was like, listen, let's go put Cooper on a Sunday. So he's facing like the other team's worst arm.
Right. Giving
In
us
the
the
sense
best
of like
chance.
the rotation.
Right.
And we end up pulling some wins out. Like, I did really well against your school, Central Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
And then had some bad ones. Like, I remember Bryant. I gave up 5 runs against Bryant, because also to give the audience a viewer of it, but Mount St. Mary's is a boombox.
Yeah.
Like,
Right
right
field is
field
what,
plays like it's
260?
260.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy.
Only home run I gave up
So
my junior season was to right field at Mount St. Mary's.
yes,
I
and
mean,
it's the
it
worst
was
thing in the world, because
yeah,
your earned run average goes through the roof when
yeah.
you're there. Um, and they even said, like, to scouts, that if you got a 7 something earned run average, that more than likely means, like if you're playing at the mound, you have a 7, that usually means you have like a 4.
Right.
Or like if you got a 4, it means you're pitching to like a 2 if you're at
Yeah.
mound.
Yeah.
And so I end up, having kind of a struggle year. We were really bad, like really, really bad. Uh, but then it kind of led into my second year there, and I think into the off season as well. And said, hey, listen, like I still am not having the consistency and the success that I want to have at the Division 1 level, and it's my last season. This is my last season coming up. I want to play professional baseball. So what do I need to do? And I ended up finding out about tread, and I started up with tread and started doing a lot of the stuff with tread before. I think like a month before I went back to school,
Mm-hmm.
and they end up giving me a plan of like, hey, this is what you need to do for your lifts. This is what you need to do for your mobility. This is what you need to do for your throwing. And for me, I never had that. So like that's why a lot of the times when I would go from the fall to the spring, I would suck because in the summer I had all that planning and all that stuff that they did for like a summer plan or summer program. And then I would go into the fall and just crush it because I had all that stuff, I had all that knowledge. Then I go into the winter, guys were a little bit up and down. I didn't know how to like properly build myself up.
Right.
And I go into the spring and like velo's down, everything's all over the place, mechanics get all over the place, and I just struggled. So I finally got, some uh I finally got a plan.
Right.
Finally got something I could follow. And that ended up leading me to my senior year where I still had some ups and downs, where I think I personally, like I've also talked to my coach about it, like I got abused in a way just because I was a guy that could give you, uh, I was our best chance to win, I
Right.
guess, in that sense. Like I went out every Friday. And I mean, first week we played Longwood. I struggled a little bit. I was chucking smoke like 93, 94,
Mm.
first time. But just, I was all over the place. Then the following week we go play Pitt and I go 6 innings with like 7 or 8 punchies. We end up beating Pitt.
Mm.
So it gave them this opportunity like, oh man, like when this guy gets on the mound, like we have a chance.
Right.
And it led to this 4 week period where we get in the conference, we play Fairfield. Or actually no, we played Towson.
Mm.
Go pitch against Towson, we beat Towson, right? And then we get absolutely whooped by Wake Forest, but that was another story. Then we go play Fairfield when we start our conferences.
Right.
We beat Fairfield, and
And you guys
I
had
pitched
switched
8 innings.
conferences, right? This you went from NEC to the MAC.
Yes, this was Mac.
Right.
Yeah, this was the Mac. I guess I flip flopped it, but Canisius was first. We played Canisius first. I ended up going there, and that's actually one of the things we talk about later with the Red Sox. Is Matt? I was pitching against Matt Duffy. Matt Duffy was 4th round pick by the Red Sox in that year's draft, and me and him had a battle, and
Mm.
I went 6 innings, 12 punchies. Like just punched the house. That
Yeah.
was the
Yeah.
most punches I've ever had in my life. And then he went 8 innings, 8 punchies, did really well against us. They end up winning like 1-0.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just a pitcher's duel all the way through. Actually, no, they beat us 9-1. But when I came out of the game, it was 1-0.
Mm.
And then the bullpen came in
Yeah.
and
Just.
things kind of went bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But then the next week we play Fairfield. I go 8 innings. We beat Fairfield. But that was also, I looked at that as started seeing the downturn of my year because I threw 130 pitches.
Jesus.
So and I had scouts coming to watch and all that type of stuff. But I threw 130 pitches. And I had scouts telling, Coach Leno, like, hey, if he keeps doing what he's doing, like, we're going to keep watching. We're going to keep seeing what happens. And, in my mind, I'm getting excited. I'm like, oh, this is going to be great. We're getting drafted, all that, all that type of stuff. End up leading into like a 3-week stretch where we played Marist, St. Peter's, Quinnipiac.
Mm-hmm.
And Marist, I ended up giving up 5 runs, but like push through, we end up getting the win. Then we play St. Peter's, and St. Peter's was one that I'm like, I'm gonna go dominate this team.
Yeah, historically not a good program.
No, they're not a good program. But I mean, me and Danny Kerwin talked about this. Danny was like, dude, you could go up there and throw like 88-mile-an-hour fastballs by these guys and do well. Well, I thought I could do that. I gave up 9 runs against them.
Jeez.
And we end up winning the game because St. Peter's is terrible. But
they have a bad
I gave up
stretch.
9 runs, and then the next week I go 2 innings against Quinnipiac, give up like 6 or 7. But my arm was just gas. I was toast. And it led into the next week. I faced Manhattan. I throw a no-hitter through 6. And then in the 7th, they get 2 runs on me. The bullpen comes in, crumbles. Anyway, builds into this whole season. We end up missing the playoffs. But where the consistency was all over the place. Like some games I'd be 90, 93. And then other games I'd be 86 to 88. And I had I talked to my tread coach about it, and he was like, listen, like, you know, it's just, you're getting overused, but also too, like, your mechanics are still not there yet.
Right.
Like, I was a big quad load guy. I would load in my quad and not be able to rotate. So, like, if my arm didn't feel good that day, I'm not throwing hard.
Right.
And, you know, a lot of guys will know from mid-major schools, like, we don't have what LSU has, or like even what Pro Ball has in the sense of, like, recovery or any of that stuff.
No, your trainer's probably a student working underneath somebody, or it's just not the
like
same.
It's nothing crazy. So like by the end of the season, your body and arm is all just messed up. So and the season, and I think I had like a below a 5 earned run average, which like at Mount St. Mary's was pretty good. But just not a season that could get me drafted, but something I, at least in my sense, looking back on, I could be proud of for my last year.
Right. Yeah. I want to touch on a couple things in that. I think the first thing I want to touch on is you pitch against UMBC and you have all this energy of like trying to prove them wrong in a sense. And I say that at the end of this podcast all the time and in my messaging of going to prove people wrong. I think it's good fuel to the fire at times. Do you think in those first 2 innings you kind of let it get to you in a sense of getting so amped up that you were doing so well against them that by the 3rd inning you almost like kind of gassed yourself out in a sense, even physically or mentally?
A little bit, for sure. And I actually kind of laugh about it because like I talked to the UMBC coach after the game, and he was like, you got fucked. Because we had an umpire where I probably threw in my 3rd inning, I threw about 6 or 7 strikes that were called balls. So like I think that played into it a little bit, and like I'm also not one to like blame an outing on that because like shit happens. Like if umpire's not calling a pitch there, like throw a better pitch.
Right.
But I definitely think like I got so amped up in those first 2 innings and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna kill these guys. Like I get through the first inning and I punch 2 and I'm like, oh, come on, like let's go. I go in the 3rd inning 100%. I'm like, things stop going my way. And I think in my brain, I just start going like, why are they not going my way? Oh, fuck, oh, fuck, oh, fuck. And then I start realizing like how tired I am, and the amp, like me being amped, starts going down. And it played a factor. And that's a big thing with baseball. It's like momentum can shift in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think that's definitely what played into it.
I think also the learning experience from like that probably needed to happen in order to have better results later in your career, to have an outing to where you did get so juiced up and realize like, all right, I probably can't pitch like that, you know, for a consistent amount of time, maybe in certain aspects, but definitely not for a 6-inning stretch. And then sort of, right, you sign on with Tread, you're training with them throughout this whole time frame, and then it gets the season and our velocity is going like this. I think a lot of athletes would get really discouraged or really upset either with the training process or just themselves in general. How did you kind of handle that to where, you know, you did throw 93, 94, and then some days you're 86, like, you know, it's almost a 10-mile-an-hour difference. Like, how did you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, it was tough because I think it was the same thing, like a lot of question marks of why is this happening? And I was lucky I had an unbelievable coach that was able to like talk me through it all. But really what it ended up coming down to was obviously my mechanics were not where they needed to be. And just I still wasn't sure on how I was supposed to recover and do all that. And I'm getting used a ton.
Right.
Like majority of the time it was, hey, I had a stretch, and I remember my dad telling me I had a stretch from after Pitt. It was Canisius through St. Peter's because Quinnipiac was I just didn't make it through 2 innings, so I only threw like 29 pitches.
Right.
From Canisius through St. Peter's, every single outing I threw above 110 pitches.
That's absurd.
So I was getting used like crazy, and I think my arm got to this point where I wasn't recovering. I didn't know how to recover the way I needed to. Like I had my sleep and the eating, which is great recovery, but like I didn't know how to prime my body or get myself ready to like go out there and perform again, put myself in a position to like keep having success. So my body just couldn't handle it, and um I ended up getting a Quinnipiac, and it was actually one of the best things that happened because I go give up, 6 runs in 2 innings. I get taken out in the second inning, but the next week I'm back to throwing 90, 93 and doing really well because my body just got rest.
Right.
And but then it ended up kind of starting the same thing where almost every outing after that, I was 100 pitchers or more. And just, I think at that point, like my body just wasn't ready for it, but it also showed me that like I was capable of doing it, especially in a sense of like, I'm capable of doing it and I'm not throwing the way I should be throwing to be able to do this at a high level.
Right. Right. Yeah, and I think too, like throughout that time frame, right, we're getting abused a little bit. It's tough on the body, and then we have kind of stints throughout that year, especially pitching against Duffy, to where it's like, dude, professional baseball might be in the cards here, and then at the end of the year, it's not. I think a lot of athletes would, maybe just hang him up and just be like, all right, I gave it everything I had in college. I played, I guess 5 years of college baseball with COVID, really 4. Like I showed a product for 4 years and nobody's really interested at the moment. Probably be pretty easy to just be like, well, I gave it everything I had. For you, at the end of that year, where were you kind of at, mentally and trying to figure out like what's next?
Yeah, I mean, I got lucky too because I had a lot of people in my corner that urged me to move forward with things. Like my coach Leone was big on like, hey, listen, I know you didn't get pro ball, and he was actually trying to see if I can end up getting another year to come back at Mount,
Mm-hmm.
just based on like the fact that I threw 5 innings my third year. Um, End up couldn't do that, but he was like, listen, like you're too good in my opinion to just hang it up. I think you have more in the tank. And my parents were big believers. They're like, listen, we believe you have more in the tank. We believe you haven't hit your full potential yet. I just think you don't know what that is yet, and you got to keep going. And my a lot of my friends said the same thing. So I said, okay, I'm gonna give this an opportunity, give it a shot, right? Because that was my mindset too of I can't go back and play baseball again. Like when I decide to give it up, I can't go back and play.
Right.
So, but I can always play, and if it doesn't work out, I can always go get a job and do whatever.
Yeah.
You know, like that can always happen. But I can't come back when I'm 40 and be like, hey, I'm going to make my, chance to go to the major leagues. Like that's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Um, so I looked at it and said, all right, like I feel good. I feel like I can do this. I just need a plan. And I end up going to Tread Athletics in the summer for like a couple weeks. And my coach Sam Eddies, who's now with the Royals, he was like, listen, we're gonna do this pro day. There's gonna really be no scouts there. It's mainly just gonna be for video. But I think we are going to. I want to make some adjustments, make some things, see what happens. I end up going into that pro day, and for the first time since like my one bullpen in my high school time, where I popped a 94.9 just randomly. Like I made some mechanical change or something, and like I hit 94.9, and then I could never do it again.
Mm-hmm.
I go into this bullpen and I end up sitting like 93 and touching 94.9. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, and it kind of gave me that hope that, like, hey, I have a chance at this. Like, I have a chance at this. And, but I still, like, that was right before the draft. That was mainly to see if I could get signed or maybe get, like, some team to go, hey, look, he's making some adjustments. Maybe he can get drafted. Um, didn't go play summer ball or anything.
Hmm.
Just kind of worked and trained there. And um, I remember I went out to California to visit my best friend, and I get a call after the draft from my coach at Tread, and he goes, "Listen, it would be a disservice to yourself and, to be honest, truly your family that has given you the opportunity to continue to play this game at a high level, that you give up baseball." And I was like, at the moment, I was kind of teetering on, do I give baseball up? Do I move out to California with my best friend and, like, start working and be out here and do whatever, or do I keep giving this a shot? And his kind of conversation led me to go, hey, I'm going to keep going,
Hmm.
because he was like, hey, listen, you you have an opportunity and a chance at this, but you have to do what I tell you. And I kind of was like, okay, well, like, what's going on? And you're like, what do you think? He goes, well, I'm looking over video. And he's like, I believe with the way you're throwing right now, you might be able to hit a 95. But more than likely, you'll probably be sitting around the 92 range, and your velo will fluctuate like it does. And you might be able to top at a 95, which would be great. But with the way you're moving right now,
It's not
you're not going to do
sustainable.
it.
Yeah.
It's really not going to work. But he's like, give give me 6 months, 6 months of your time, and you are going to go throw in this pro day in January here at Tread, and we are going to train like crazy to build in these new habits for your mechanics and get yourself physically ready by lifting, eating, all that type of stuff, to go into January, throw this pro day, and get yourself a professional opportunity.
Yeah.
And I said, all right, fuck it, let's do it.
Yeah, I think that's so for you, I guess, in that time frame of that first pro day to where it is kind of more video and post college and stuff. Was that your sort of, in your mind, going into it, like the last roll of the dice, in a sense of, all right, this is everything I got, let's see what happens, and then at the end of it, essentially nothing happens, and you're just kind of like, all right, I'm done. Like, I guess, how did you go from that to then, like, all right, let's give it a shot? Was it really just that conversation with just having a good coach, right? Somebody who really believed in you, that really pushed you over the edge to where maybe at that time you didn't believe it was possible yourself?
Yeah, I remember throwing that bullpen, and I was like, all right, like, this doesn't get me signed or drafted. Like, I don't know what else will, and I'm just gonna, like, I'll hang them up and end up not getting signed or drafted. And that's like, as yeah, I don't think a lot of people know, it's like there's a lot that goes in to teams signing and drafting guys, like
Mm-hmm.
a ton of scouting and a ton of things that go on. Um, so there's a lot of teams that probably, looked at video and said, "Oh, that's pretty cool." Right. But, like, we've also seen from guys that have gone out and seen him, like, his velo fluctuates. Like, he might have had a crazy amount of rest, came out there through 93, 94, and great, but his velo's been fluctuating and has been kind of all over the place. Um, so there's a lot that goes into it. And, like, I think my numbers and stuff like that said different things. And but I looked at it and I was like, all right, I I think this is it, because the draft went by. I watched the draft, didn't get my name called. Or, even called after for getting signed. But I had that call with Sam to really look at it. But I also, I'm grateful. Like I said, I have a really good support system. My family, my parents, my best friend were like, hey, I I would be mad at you if you didn't give this an opportunity. Like, you have an opportunity to actually make this dream of yours a reality.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have the ability. All you got to do is just work at this thing. Like, that should be a no-brainer. And I think in my mind that kind of took over, and I was like, yeah, it is a no-brainer. Like, I'm going to give this everything I have.
Yeah, and I think it's super important that you touched on the fact of, like, maybe, at times we don't feel like fighting for the dream anymore, in a sense where it's just like, in my head, I've done everything I possibly can, and then somebody kind of just taps you on the shoulder like, nah, man, you got a little more left, and that little push really is so huge for us. Like we said this earlier of the mindset of like nobody's coming to save you, but at times when you can get that push from an outside source that believes in you, sometimes more than we do, right? Sometimes our parents believe in us way more than we could possibly even imagine is huge. So you do the 6 months of training. What does that sort of look like mentally for Cooper? And also the day of the pro day, right? Because we threw in the same pro day that year. And I know how I felt of just the adrenaline and all of this hard work boiling down to, 2 minutes? Like when you really think a 2-minute bullpen is really all it was. And it's all boiling down to 6 months of work to showcase 2 minutes. Like, how did you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot. Like, I think, like I said earlier, I had a similar mindset to how this was with the transfer portal. And I was kind of lucky and blessed in the sense that I went through all that because there were a lot of moments of doubt, a lot of moments of like, can I make this happen? Like, and I started off really hot. Like, basically the way that we did our training to train the mechanics of things was I did short boxes all like it was like Monday, Wednesday, Friday short boxes. And in these short boxes, my biggest issue was my hinge. I didn't hinge well, and then I wasn't able to rotate out of my hinge really well. I just quad loaded like crazy, and then I would extend down the mound. And that obviously caused everything to just not be able to rotate. I was late, and then it was just all arm talent at that point. And what we worked on was strictly going, hey, let's work on your hinge. So that's all I did. And then his mindset was, hey, we're going to do these like 70% short boxes, 75% short boxes. And we are going to see how easy you can get velo. Like keeping it easy, keeping it fluid, because that was the big thing that always helped me was like, I tense up like crazy when I try and throw hard. Mm-hmm. So he was like, I want you to just be smooth, easy, keep it at a low percentage. And see how hard you can throw, right? Like, see what the number is. If you throw 82 when you're throwing at 7, okay. But, like, see what happens. And, like, the first 3 weeks, and it's funny because people will look at me and be like, you were throwing 88 at 70%? Yeah, right.
I've seen it.
But
it's
just how it is.
Yeah,
like,
I've seen
started
you do
moving right.
Yeah, I've seen you do it. It's real.
Yeah, like, I started moving right. And then I start throwing, and I still have videos from this day. It's like I'm literally just feel like I'm floating. I look like it's just easy, and it's just coming out like fuego. And you're like, whoa, what happened here? But then I also have moments where I started to lose my mechanics because that happens. Right. Like I think a lot of people, we talked about this earlier, but like a lot of people think that the velo and everything is always going to stay. It's a constant process.
Right.
Your body is going to change and flow as life goes on. So there might be a week where maybe you didn't get enough sleep or you didn't get enough to eat or whatever it is, and it affects the way your body's moving. And you're sitting there going, man, I should be moving upwards. Like I should be throwing 92 this week. Like I've been throwing, 88, 90 at 80, like at 80% in these short boxes. I should be throwing 92, 94 now. It's like, that's not how that works. No. And I remember I took a big dip. I was like throwing 83, 85 for like probably around a month.
Yeah.
And I started freaking out. And I just realized there were some mechanical things that creeped in that I didn't realize because I've been pushing my body so hard to get stronger and I'm going in every day and working out and throwing and doing all this stuff that like your body's going to change and your body's going to make adjustments. And that's the one thing they say about baseball players is we are elite compensators. We compensate for things and are able to compensate really well to be able to throw a ball really hard. So sometimes when your body is not doing what it usually does or compensating the way that it usually does and it's compensating in another way, your body gets thrown off. And so I took some time where it was like, okay, I'm throwing 83 at 85, which was fine, which was kind of like if I looked at that, 2 months ago, I would have been like, holy shit, I'm throwing 83 to 85 at like 70%. Like, this is sick. But because I had the beginning part where I was throwing 88, 89, like I wanted that to be every time. And So there were definitely some moments of doubt of like, can I do this? Is this going to be able to happen? And it ended up leading to me getting a better understanding of my mechanics, my body, how everything worked, and then obviously led me to coming down to tread in November and leading up to pro day.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's super important for people to hear. Again, just like how it's not a linear process, and it doesn't just hold. Like there are going to be times where all of a sudden it feels like you have no idea what you're doing anymore. And I think that's why a coach is so important for anyone's career. Like you can apply this to anything because we miss so much as the individual. We think something's wrong, it's really not. Like through that time frame, mechanics could have been off a little bit, but it also could just be Cooper was tired. Like that
Yeah.
literally just a month of tired. Like your central nervous system is something that is so finicky that we don't address enough. So leading up to this pro day, I remember watching your pro day and watching your bullpen because I'm pretty sure you threw in the morning and I threw like maybe 5 or 6 guys after you from what I remember. Like we were pretty closely stacked
Pretty
up.
close. Yeah.
Um, and I remember the look on your face, and I want to get the number right. I'm pretty sure in the pre-warm up bullpen you hit 94 or like 2 or something.
Hmm.
And I remember you looking at the catcher like, oh shit, this is going to be fun. And then I remember you going into the pro day, you top out at 96.8. I think you averaged 95.1 or something. Kind of walk us through like the pro day itself and a little bit of like when you see that first number on the mound, your first fastball, where you're like, oh shit, this is going to be crazy.
Yeah, I had. I think leading up to it too, I ended up going down tread. We're throwing bullpens, getting ourselves prepared to go, and obviously same thing. Had some ups and down ones, but I remember one. I ended up touching 94 in one of my bullpens, like, and it was like as hard as I could. It was like a 93.9 that TrackMan rounded up to 94. So like that entire process, I was giving everything I could to hit 94. Um, so, and I'm not as much of a bullpen guy. Like you see guys on tread and whatever it is that like they'll go there throw 100 in a bullpen. Like
Right.
I personally will never be one of those guys. I'm a big adrenaline guy.
Right.
So I think when pro day came about, my adrenaline was just so high because I knew this was my opportunity. Like this is my opportunity to go show my stuff. This is my opportunity to go show the work I've put in for 6 months of my life and like really put myself in a good position. And I think on another note of things, like I had a lot of people telling me before I got to tread or even when I was at tread, like, hey, listen, affiliate ball might not happen.
Mhm.
And it probably isn't going to happen
Right.
just because you're a guy that came from college, you have no pro experience. Like more than likely what's going to happen is you're going to throw well in this bullpen. You're going to get an independent ball team. You're going to go play independent ball, and someone's going to sign you on to independent ball. But I always had this mindset in my mind that I'm like, no, I'm going to go pitch really well in this bullpen. I'm going to get an affiliate ball contract. Like I'm going to make it happen. And I said, listen, if I got to go play independent ball, cool. I'm going to go play independent ball. Like I'm not counting that out. But like in my mind, I was always very focused on I'm going to be in affiliate ball. And that day was kind of that mindset of like, I'm going to make this happen. And, I go in there and it's like the pre bullpen and my like first 2 pitches, I'm like lightly tossing 92. And I remember because a guy went before me that was also Sam's client.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was like, listen, I can't be with you for this entire bullpen. I got to go watch him. And I said, okay, cool, cool, cool. Don't worry about it. And he goes, I'll come back at the end. I said, okay, cool. So I had one of the coaches there, Hunter, and he's watching me. And I'm throwing just 92, just, easy. And he looks at me, goes, calm down, calm down. Like, you're throwing too hard. Like, save bullets for in there. And I'm like, dude, I feel fine. Like, I feel like this is easy right now. And like, I go through all my pitches or whatever it is, and Sam comes in and he's like, all right, like, how's everything going? I'm like, oh, pretty good. Like, because I kind of eased off the gas pedal a little bit. I was throwing like 88, 90 just to make sure, like,
Yeah,
I wasn't
you didn't waste
overdoing
it.
it. But Sam goes, okay, just let one loose and then we'll go in there, right? I'm just like, all right, I'm gonna let a pitch go a little bit, like keep it relatively easy. But Sam was like, listen, let it go, but don't don't be 100% with it. Like, just keep it easy. So then you can save all the 100% stuff that when you're there. So I let it go, and it's like I didn't feel like I chucked it as hard as I could, and it was 94-2. And like I said, I was pushing for that 94 every bullpen before that. And I remember looking at Sam, and Sam looking at me and going, "Oh boy." So I go into the pro day cage, and that's it's a bullpen. It's kind of an interesting thing, but you walk up there, and there's
The
probably
adrenaline's
like
crazy.
50 or 30, like 30 to 50 scouts just sitting there watching you from every corner. And I was like, man, I think I just completely blacked out. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go fucking chuck the ball. And 95 was always my goal. I always wanted to hit 95. In college, too, I like wrote down a thing of like, I want to hit 95. That's my goal. And I never hit it before. And my first pitch, and I remember me and Sam talked about it after. And, from before, 94.9 was my top.
Right.
Well, the first pitch I threw in that pro day was 94.9. So it was my full top. And I go, oh. I said, well, that even felt like I can give it a tick more. Sure enough, next pitch I throw is a PR. And I go, boom, 95.7. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then the next pitch after that's another PR, 96.1. And I'm just sitting there going like, what's going on right now? Like I just hit basically my PR, a new PR, and then another new PR back to back to back. And I go through my pitches, and like I upgraded my pitches during the time that I was there. And then I'm throwing. I'm like, man, I'm sitting 95. Like my goal was to hit 95 once. I'm sitting it. And to this day, kind of funny story on it. Sam gets really mad at me because I did it in the pro day before with the 94.9, but I did it with this one as well, which is my last pitch. I just throw as hard as I can. Boom. And on the board, it says 96.4. But on TrackMan, it was 96.8 or 9.
Yeah.
Right? So I get it. And I just, caught the ball back. And I'm like, dude, I just sat 95 and touched 96 like 4 times. Like, I'm done. I showed what I need to show. But Sam kind of was getting on me. He's like, dude, why didn't you like throw another one? You should just throw another one to see if you could hit a 97. And I just didn't even think about it. But I remember a lot of people telling me like, listen, it's probably good that you ended on what you ended on. You threw what you need to throw. But I remember getting out of the cage, Sam coming up to me and goes, you know how I said that you probably going to have to go play independent ball? Well, you might have thrown the best bullpen I have ever seen, and I am for certain sure you are going to get an affiliate ball opportunity based off what I just watched. And, I think I was just kind of on cloud nine at that point because everyone's just like, dude, what the fuck just happened?
I remember all of us like, I think that's why I enjoy what I'm doing now, just being the spectator. Like all of us watching that, just being like your friend group. And obviously like we hung out a lot during this time frame at Tread. We all, went out and stuff. And there's like 7 or 8 of us just watching it like with our eyes like out of our head. Like this is insane that Cooper's doing this. And then the whole place like, I think Pro Day is such an interesting place. It's kind of dead quiet in there, especially during the pens. And then once the bullpen was over, it sounded like half the facility went ballistic just because of like how happy we were for you and how crazy it was. Did you realize in that moment that like your life wasn't going to be the same after that, or had it not really set in yet?
It didn't set in at all. Like I think I had a lot of people coming up to me going like, dude, what the hell did you just do? And I'm like, I just threw a bullpen, man. Like it was
Yeah.
fun. I think it hit me like I was like, man, I did something I'd never done before. And I remember calling my parents, and my parents freaked out because they were really like nervous about it and like wanted to hear all about it. I remember like I shed a couple tears too because it was just like, man, I worked
So
my butt
hard.
off to get to this point,
Yeah.
and it all showed. And So I think I had an idea of like, listen, no matter what happens, right? Like, no matter if I get a call from a affiliate ball team or not, like, I did what I set out to do with that. And I think for myself, I had an idea. And I think a lot of people in my corner, like I know we talked about it, but like I think a lot of people in my corner were like, listen, like I think you're gonna get a call at some
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that process a little bit too, because obviously, as I said, like all of us pretty much stayed after that pro day because you're hoping to hear from teams and be there, but there's no like set timeline. Like
No.
some guys get a call. I think the quickest call was probably Jordan, who's a friend of ours who threw a knuckleball. So it was kind of like, all right, he's an outlier. Makes sense. He got a call pretty quick. And then some guys who got signed who were throwing 100 in pro day took a month, 2 months, right before spring training, some guys. So like you end that pro day and you go home, you feel like this euphoria of all this hard work you put in, but there's no timeline. So you're just
Oh
like,
yeah.
even if you ask Sam, I guarantee he told you like, we'll hear when we hear. Like it's just, we have no idea what's going to happen. How did you deal with that aspect? And then when did you get the call?
Yeah, it was definitely hard for sure because I mean I remember one of the nights we were playing poker with
And
Jordan,
Jordan gets the
and
call.
Jordan gets the call from the Blue Jays.
And the most Jordan way to get a call too goes, why is Toronto calling me? And it's like, why
Yeah,
do you think, dude? Answer the phone.
answer the call. Yeah, answer the phone.
Answer the
What are we
call,
doing
dude.
here?
I'll answer it for you. Like that's
Yeah.
somebody important, dude.
But I remember him getting that call, and man, I was like, man, I wonder if I'm gonna get a call
Mm-hmm.
soon. Like I even had I remember Gabe. He was like, man, like, are you? Did you feel a certain way when that happened? I said, no. Like Jordan deserved the call.
Yeah, 100%.
For me, I was like, when am I get like am I gonna get one? Like am I gonna get a call from an affiliate ball team, an independent ball team? Like I was like, man, I feel like I deserve to at least get a call from somebody. And I
Right.
think the next day I ended up getting a call from the Florence Y'alls, and
Doesn't
they were
feel the
very
greatest, but it's still
yeah
professional
they
baseball.
yeah, professional baseball team. And but like they gave me a contract and everything, and I was like, okay, so I have a team. And I remember Sam going, hey, do not sign anything until we get through this entire process. And I was like, of course, I'm not going to say yes to anybody or
Because
do
people
anything.
don't even realize that if you signed with the Florence Y'alls, obviously it's an independent team in the Frontier League. The team that does end up signing you ends up being the Red Sox, but the Red Sox would have had to buy you out of that contract, which is not cheap. So
No,
it's not
not
it's
cheap at
not a
all.
quick little like here's like $500 for Cooper. It's in the thousands of dollars range, which puts you in a tougher spot to where if you did sign that contract, maybe the Red Sox aren't interested anymore because they didn't want to pay $10,000 to acquire Cooper. So obviously great advice there. You get the call from the Y'alls. How like I guess when do we eventually get the call from the Red Sox?
Yeah, so it took about a week. I ended up getting a text from the Cincinnati Reds, and that was like the first like affiliate ball team I got, and like we started talking seriously. And then I got a call from the Arizona Diamondbacks, and they were kind of like, hey, we don't have roster spots right now, but we want you to come to this camp. um and I was sitting there, I'm like, oh well, I right now I have the Reds. Like the Reds were really interested. They were like, hey, we're gonna basically, we like what we see, we're gonna get we're doing some things, but we're gonna get this out to you because we want you to be a Cincinnati Red. And I was like, well, I got an affiliate bowl thing. Like this is gonna be sick. So I get off a call with the Cincinnati Reds, and they offer me and everything, and I'm like kind of close gung ho to being just like I'm ready to take it.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember Sam ended up leaving. He was going to the Royals, and I was my new coach Leif. Uh, he was like, listen, wait. And I even talked to Sam about it. He goes, wait, just wait and see what happens. Because like I said, like the Reds kind of offer was, hey, listen, like you are gonna come to spring training, you're gonna earn a spot.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's all you can ask for as a free agent. Like, I'm gonna come in and earn a spot. Like
Right.
that's my goal. Right. But I end up getting a call. I remember I'm rolling out in tread. I think it was like a Saturday morning. I'm rolling out, get myself ready to just light toss for the day, and I get a call, and it says Boston, and I go, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I pick up the phone, And it was one of the head scouts for Boston. They go, "Hey, listen, is this Cooper Adams?" I said, "Yes." And he goes, "Hey, Coop, like, this is, so and so. I'm not gonna say his name, so and so from the Boston Red Sox." And he we had a conversation. I ended up going to my car. I'm having a conversation with him, and he was like, "Dude, we loved what we saw in your pro day, and we really want you to be a Boston Red Sox." And like, kind of laid out an offer that they wanted to put out. They were like, "Listen, we want you to, start in high A, all this type of stuff, but we have to do a couple things. Like, we have to do some scouting and like some other stuff to just like before we give you a formal offer." But one of the things that he said, and it kind of was a cool callback moment, was he was one of the guys, like, the Red Sox saw me when I pitched against Duffy against
Right.
Canisius. And one of his questions to me was, "We saw you pitch against Duffy and you were 90 to 92, right? And you had the intangibles, but the velo just wasn't there." And he's like, that was, and he even told me, he goes, "That was a big reason why you weren't on any, like, or at least for us, like someone that we considered,
Hmm.
is because the velo wasn't there.
Right.
Like, you went and punched out 12, but you're 90 92 as a righty and you're a little bit older. Like, it just wasn't something that we wanted, right?" He's like, "What the heck did you do to go from 90 to 92 to now being 5 to 6?" And I kind of explained everything, and he goes, "Whatever you did, that worked really well."
Yeah.
And yeah, we end up having a good conversation. He said, "Hey, listen, I'm going to talk to you soon." And it ends up being kind of a weird process, because obviously, you can't leave an offer on the table for like a month.
Right.
you know the Reds gotta to make changes and all that type of stuff. So I ended up letting them know, going, "Hey, listen, like, the Reds have an offer on the table. Like, if you guys are going to give me an offer, like, I need something, or I'm going to go with them." And he ended up calling me later. I think it was like a couple weeks later, like when I kind of needed to give the answer to the Reds. And he was like, "Listen, this is our offer. You're get this, and then you're going to be in high A, like, and we want you to be like pitching like a middle relief or like starter role."
Hmm.
And it was just, to me, being an undrafted free agent, such a great like offer that I just couldn't say no.
Yeah. Yeah. I think what's crazy about that too is it really relates back to your transfer portal story a lot, and I think that was a huge teaching moment to be able to handle this process, because they're not exactly the same, but they're very similar as far as having to wait and not understanding what everything means in a sense too. And then I think it's so, like, that must have been so crazy to hear, to be a guy who's a UDFA, fresh out of college. To you're not going to low A, you're not staying in the complex, like, you're going straight to high A. And on top of that, we're thinking about making you a starter, which I'm sure you remember. Like, at Tread, one of the things that they kind of always said is, out of this pro day, most of you guys are going to be bullpen guys. They've already got their starters from colleges or other professional leagues. Like, if you get signed to affiliate, like, mentally prepare for the bullpen. But you hear the complete opposite. What, at this point, like, how's Cooper feeling? The guy who, 2-3 years ago is throwing 86 miles an hour in college to now throwing 96 in a bullpen, and you're a Boston Red Sox.
Yeah, I think it obviously, like, it was a dream come true for me to make it happen. But also, like, it's only the start of a process.
Right.
And that was actually my biggest thing was, okay, I threw 95, 96 in this bullpen, but I remember how my last bullpen at Tread went, which was when I went to the first pro day, I threw 93, 94. And then my coach was like, "Hey, listen, we want you to keep like the arm up just in case you get signed or drafted. So you're going to go throw, keep throwing bullpens and start throwing lives." And I went and I threw live to my friend, and I'm back to throwing 86 to 88.
Yeah.
And like, I didn't have any idea what I was doing or whatever it was. So my biggest thing was like, I want to be able to keep the velo that I'm throwing. And I threw some bullpens. I was like 90, 92 again. I was like, that's where I need to be in a bullpen sense. And then I went and threw some lives at Mount St. Mary's again. And it's freezing cold and I'm throwing 93 to 94. And I'm like, all right, well, it seems like the velo's still there. So like that kind of got my worry out there. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to keep working. Um, but yeah, I remember getting down to spring training the first time and like, it's wild because also a lot of guys, everybody knows each other.
Right.
Like most of the guys know each other because
Same draft
the guys that are
class.
drafted come
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
together. Like all the guys that have been there and start knowing the draft guys. So I'm an undrafted free agent coming in the complex for the first time. I was lucky too because I had a buddy of mine that I played with in high school that got drafted by the Red Sox. So like I knew him.
Hmm.
Um, but I'm just slowly trying to meet guys and get my footing in, and like it was definitely an awkward thing because I'm in the clubhouse now with you know guys that I've saw on TV, like and in the weight room with guys that I've seen on TV, like I'm in the locker room with Marcelo Meyer, with Roman Anthony, with Mikey Romero, who was a first round draft pick in 2022, like I'm with all these guys that I've seen before get drafted and all this type of stuff. And then I'm having conversations with them, making friends with them. And then on the other part of it, like kind of a funny story, the first day I get in, we get up butt crack of dawn. I come in and I'm like, all right, well, I got to get my work in for the day. But they hadn't fully gotten my equipment ready to put in my locker. And
Hmm.
I go, hey, listen, like, can I get my equipment, like shirt or whatever? And they go, hey, listen, we need to print the shirts full on, like put your name on the back of the shirt. And then we don't have we just need to get some of the shorts figured out. So like, we'll have it all in your locker tomorrow. But here we can give you a sweatshirt. Well, remember, spring training's in Florida, right? It's hot.
Yeah.
And I still need to get my work in. And they said, hey, listen, like, if you need to get your work in, go to this field and throw. But everyone at that place has Red Sox gear already, right?
Right.
So I walk into the weight room, and our weight room is, the major league guys and the minor league guys can use it. We just have a major league and minor league side.
Hmm.
But like sometimes the major league guys will come over. So I'm in there and I'm rolling out and I have gray shorts on and this Red Sox sweatshirt because the thing I have underneath is like a red like t-shirt.
Hmm.
And Kenley Jansen's just looking at me going like, who the fuck is this kid? Like, what is he
Did he
doing?
steal a hoodie
And
and get in here?
yeah, I was like, who let this kid in here? And then I go one of the fields and I start throwing and like, I could see eyes on me being like, who is this kid?
Right.
Like, what the heck is going on? But I ended up getting my footing and, meeting a ton of guys. But, like, especially on the mental side of things, it took me, to be honest, a full year to believe I deserved to be there.
Did you feel imposter syndrome at times? Like a little bit of like, dude, I came from Mount St. Mary's in UMBC, and Kenley Jansen's a handshake away from me. Did you ever feel that? Because I think a lot of athletes feel that at times when they finally get the result that you flat out deserve, but you're there and you're like, do I really deserve to be here? Like, did you feel that way at all?
Oh, I mean, I felt that way throughout my entire first year.
Yeah.
I think it was a big reason I had a lot of ups and down moments in my first year. Like my velo stayed the entire year, which like that was a big success for me. And like I threw a ton of innings and I did have success, but I also had some really down months.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a big learning process for me. Like I learned a bunch of new pitches and learned like how to pitch better and like how to actually like employ my arsenal, and but all year, man, like I'm with guys, especially in high A, like I'm with guys who now are in the show, like my buddy Conley Early, like he's in the show and he was shoving.
Mm-hmm.
My boy Hayden Mullins, who had like a one something earned run average all year last year and like a one something in Double A, like he he's shoving and like all these guys just have better pitches or they throw harder or they have this or they're a bigger draft pick than I am. It was it was in my mind constantly. I'm sitting there going, man, I mean, this guy deserves to get called up more than me. This guy is going to make it before me because he has this, or like he signed for this, or he like got drafted, at this level, or like he knows how to pitch or does this or that, and I don't know anything. Like I'm just some undrafted free agent from Mount St. Mary's. Like there's no way I make it.
Right.
And it was this big part of like throughout my entire process leading up into pro day, my mindset was I'm going to make it. I'm going to make it to affiliate ball. I'm going to make it. 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 For really the first time in a really long time, I had this unbelievable doubt that I wasn't cut out to play at this level and cut out to make my dream become a reality. When in reality, it wasn't the case.
Right. Do you know where that was sort of stemming from for the first time, where there was just sort of doubt? Was it just the fact it was affiliate and almost, I think a lot of times people achieve their dream and then it's like, what now? Like obviously, the goal is to be a big leaguer, but I think, you strive so hard for affiliate and you get there and it's like, what the fuck happens now? Like, what do I do now? Like, this is so crazy because I think, we have these dreams and we don't necessarily even expect to achieve them, and then we do, and it's like, oh fuck, you know what I mean? So, I guess in that sense, how did you again sort of pull yourself out of that mindset of like, no, I deserve to be here, right? Because then at the end of that season, right, we get invited to the Arizona Fall League, which you're playing with everybody's top prospect. So it's going from the UDFA guy to you're one of the Boston Red Sox top prospects now. Like it's a little different.
Yeah, man, it was. I think I took a change within I think month of July, um, because my first like beginning in April, I had a good start.
Mm-hmm.
Like the first 7 innings, I went scoreless. I had like 8 punchies. I was doing really well, and I remember I had this one outing where I give up my first run and it starts like going down a little bit. And then I have my first start, and like the first start goes pretty well, but it was just like, you know, not everything. And then it just kept kind of hitting walls. And like I remember I come out of the bullpen one of the times I give up 9 runs against Asheville, and then I give up like 5 or 6 runs in 2 innings against Winston-Salem. And I just kept having this part in my brain. And I remember talking to my one buddy about it who we signed. And he was like, the thing that he was with an organization before. And he said, the thing that crushed me, man, was every single day I showed up to the ballpark, I thought I was getting cut. Like, and that was my mindset. Like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
walking in going, and is today the day I get cut? Is today the day I get released? And those first, like, 3 or 4 months, like, and really into July, like, I'm walking into the field going, is today the day I get cut? Is today the day I get released? Because I kept in that mindset, like, I don't know if I deserve to be here. I don't know if I'm good enough to be here. Like, and I'm looking at guys, all the guys around me, and I'm like, well, am I better than this guy? Or am I better than this guy? Am I better? Like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And I question every little thing. And I think it was the same thing that I remember my tread coach talking to me about it. He goes, work, 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 work. And like I said, we talked about before, I was really lucky to have him during that year because he got me through a lot of the things that I was dealing with. But man, I just worked my butt off, and I was like, hey man, like I got to make adjustments. Like that's the biggest thing in the season is like you have to make adjustments because hitters will make adjustments to you. Like I had success at the start of the season, then they started making adjustments to what I was doing. And then I had to learn. I was like, all right, I got rid of my changeup because my changeup was like very inconsistent, and then it became this terrible pitch during the middle of the part where I could barely even throw it. And then I'm throwing 40% sweeper, and my sweeper's terrible too. So I'm like, what do I do? And then July came and they go, hey, listen, we're going to move you to the bullpen and we're going to add a cutter in for you
Mm-hmm.
and play like more like a gyro slider. And I said, okay, I'll give it a shot. And I will say that pitch ended up saving my year
Mm-hmm.
because I started throwing the cutter. I'm able to throw it more, 0 counts, but I have something that another hitter has to worry about, a better in zone pitch too, because I wasn't throwing as many strikes as I wanted to because the sweeper's such a big pitch. And then I'm throwing sweeper fastball, and it's like you can only throw so many fastballs, especially to
Right.
professional hitters. Um, and then I end up getting my changeup back to where it needs to be and learn a new grip and get back there. So like I made these adjustments, made these in season adjustments where it's like, all right, now I added a cutter, I added a better changeup, I have my sweeper now, but now I don't have to use my sweeper 40%. I can use it as a
An out pitch and
fifteen
things like
twenty
that.
percent
Yeah.
clip pitch, or like just an off speed pitch and 2 strike counts to try and get a guy, and I don't have to lean on my fastball so much. And it ended up changing my outlook on the end of the season because they're like I end up having 2 or 3 months where I just didn't give up many runs, and
Yeah.
I would come out of the bullpen and do really well, and then my velo started ticking up, and like I made some adjustments, and instead of being like 3 to 5 in game and like touching a 6, I'm now being 4 to 6 touching a 7.
Right.
And it kind of led me into adjustment, and obviously led me into Arizona, where they go, hey, I end up developing a curveball at the end of the season, made me a death ball, which I throw now. And they were like, hey, listen, we want you to get work on this in Arizona. And obviously sent me to Arizona to continue to progress.
Yeah, which I think is, I mean, dude, like your journey in general is literally just I think a perfect bird's eye view into just like things not going according to plan ever, and it's still being something that you need to, continue to push forward. And that's really why I wanted to have you on, and really the point of this podcast in general is to show just stories like yours in general, to where like things easily, there were so many times throughout this, like as a listener throughout this, to where you could have easily just like walked the other way and you just decided not to. And I think that is the definition of a stud muffin, and you definitely are one. And I appreciate you being on, dude. So Cooper Adams, was in Double A this past year. Where can they find you on social media so they can follow you all the way to the big leagues?
I think my Instagram right now is Cooper underscore Adams 5, and then I think that's probably the same with my TikTok. I'll post some on TikTok
Yeah.
here and there as well. But yeah, those are the two. And obviously, like I said, I really appreciate being on the podcast, and obviously you taking time out of your day to have me on.
Yeah, dude. You're the absolute man. I can't thank you enough for doing this. And as always, stud muffins, go prove them wrong.